even you are not using specific module, it is loaded into memory. It is loaded into memory. That is what the problem with this. So what is the intention of this is, that means if application is using large number of routes, so actually lazy loading is a design pattern. Technically, lazy loading is a design pattern. That means generally people made this as a topic, but actually lazy loading is a design pattern. And this design pattern helps us to create modules in such a way that they are loaded only when they are required. That means the intention of lazy loading. So lazy loading allows lazy loading allows it technically allows to load ng modules only when they are required. Lazy loading allows to load ng modules only when they are required. That is important point about this lazy loading. So that means allows to load the modules only when they are required. It will not unnecessarily load. That means what is the advantage of this is, so it keeps initial bundle size smaller, and it improves render time. It improves render time. So it is more lightweight. So that is the main advantage. That means actually it decreases the page load time. It decreases the page load time and improves the performance. It makes better. That is what actually the concept of lazy loading. Now for this, we will take one complex example. Now we will go and design a separate modular approach. Here you will see some new points. How do we handle? In the routing, some important points you will observe that. Some new concepts, how we manage. Actually, we have worked with all component based. In routing also, we used components regularly. But generally, what you can do is, when we are developing application for real time, so when we are developing application for real world scenario, what we can actually do is, we can maintain multiple modules. For example, so we are using some categories. We are using from products. So we are using from customers like this. Categories, products, customers, some vendors. Like this, so many options are there. And all we need to provide in one application. Then earlier, how we are designing categories component, products component, customers component, vendor's component like this. But actually, in categories in categories, lot of categories manipulations will be there. Lot of products manipulations, customer. So that means every categories, products, customers, every option requires an individual navigation and functionality within this, because lot of manipulations will be there for vendors, lot of manipulations will be there for customers. Then instead of directly designing them as components, now we will design them as modules. For every requirement, we design modules now. Instead of components, we design modules. What is the intention? What is the speciality of this modules is every module, usually what happens is every module comprises of its component. Every module have its component, and every module have its own route. Generally we call these as child routes. Every module has its own route. So that means you configure your own routes for your component. A module will maintain a separate app-like structure in an application, so that you can maintain your components, you can configure your routes for those components, because in categories, again, there can be home component, search component, like that you can maintain multiple components in the categories module. In the products module, similar. That means in every module, you can configure a separate route. You can configure a separate component. So that means every module is now having a component, and it is having its own route. Every component will have its own configurations like this. Now finally, what happens is, we have an app route module. In app route module, generally what we do is we create routes. We create routes for these modules now. We create route for these modules. Not directly components. We will create route for these modules. That means generally now you will have a path, and this path is categories. Categories is a path, and this categories is not a component, it is a module. And I want the module in such a way that the module is imported and the module is used only when it is requested. And very important is every module is having a child route. And app route is our parent route. Now categories should load. It should load children. It should load children. Load children is a method. This method, what it will do is it will import that particular module. So which module? Categories module. And then it will load that module and return that module. It will return that categories module. What is this syntax? Is nothing but whenever you hit categories,